From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. You feeling overwhelmed? Did Patch Tuesday yesterday beat you down? Were you simply going about your day at around noonish, started seeing the news drop, and then spit out your midday coffee, maybe your midday soda, and go, what in the F is going on? Because if that's your reaction, then you can join me in unison as pretty much saying, what in the world is going on? What a Patch Tuesday. So I'll tell you this, we're prepping for the show this morning, and we went through 26 stories. So on average, to get down to like the most brilliant stories, we get to about 15, 18 stories. And then we kind of go, all right, what's the theme of the show, so forth, right? Kind of giving you some backstage insights here. We had 26. And I was trying to get it down to 10. I couldn't. Today's show is going to be long. So I'm not going to complain anymore. I'm just going to tell you, brace, buckle up, grab your cup of coffee. I've got my double espresso this morning. Grab it. Be ready to rock and roll. Because boy, oh boy, it's going to be a beater today. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. CyberHubPodcast.com is where you can go and get all the latest content, including this podcast in written format in your inbox. Just go to our website, go to CyberHub Podcast, subscribe. That's all you need to do. Put in your email address. That's it. Don't ask you for anything else. We don't spam you. You get 5 emails a week. 4 for the show, 1 on Friday. Summarizes all the shows. In your inbox, everything you need. So just go do it. Doesn't cost you any money. It's free. Let's get started. If you're a we're going to have that today. So we're off alignment. We didn't check. All right. So we're going to be off alignment a bit today. So you're going to see me move this around. All right. So Microsoft, a bunch of bad news coming out of Microsoft. We'll get to the worst news here at the end of the show. So don't go anywhere. Microsoft releasing security patches covering at least 70 different vulnerabilities across their Windows OS and software stack. They're calling urgent attention to 5 0 days. 5 0 days. I repeat, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Teach my 3.5-year-old how to count. That's how we do it on our fingers, right? So 5 0 days marked for immediate attention. Are you ready? Here we go. CVE 2025-303. If you're from Colorado, that would resonate. 9 or 7. Scripting engine memory corruption vulnerability. It's a remote code execution. It would allow access of resource using incompatible type of confusion in Microsoft scripting engine would allow unauthorized attackers to execute code over a network. The attacker would require an authenticated client to click a link so that an unauthenticated attacker can initiate remote code execution. Kind of zero-day requires some sophistication. CVE 2025-32709er. Windows ancillary function driver for WinSock elevation of privilege vulnerability. This is a use after free memory corruption bug that allows an authorized attacker to elevate privileges locally. An attacker who exploits this vulnerability could gain administrator privileges. CVE 2025-32706, a Windows common log file system driver elevation of privilege vulnerability. Microsoft describes this as an improper input validation flaw in the Windows common log file system driver that allows an authorized attacker to elevate privileges locally. Again, authorized attackers means they've compromised your credentials. And in case this is your first time tuning into the show, compromising credentials is about as easy as me drinking a cup of coffee. CVE 2025-32701 is a Windows common log file system driver elevation of privilege vulnerability, another use after free memory corruption bug that would allow an authorized attacker to elevate privileges locally. And CVE 2025-30400, a Microsoft DWM core library elevation of privilege vulnerability, again, described as use after free in Windows DMM that allows an authorized attacker to elevate privileges locally. An attacker who successfully does that can successfully exploit the vulnerability and gain system privileges. Why James puts his phone on vibrate, no one knows. This is one of those days, right? Getting ready for the show today was a handful. Microsoft is struggling to keep pace with attackers. Obviously, 5 0 days, folks. 5 0 days. Crazy. Here's the thing. A lot of these require authorized attackers. So you're looking at this and going, James, this doesn't seem as bad, but it is 5 0 days. It's 5 0 days. It's significant. Here's what I'm going to go ahead and kind of break down for you. The question isn't the 5 0 days. The question is, can attackers cleverly piece them together to create a massive 0 day? And if they can, that's bad news for all of us, every single one of us, because we all live on the Windows ecosystem, whether we like it or not. We have devices, we've got programs, our supply chains, it all is interconnected. So even if you tell me we're a Linux shop, I'm not worried. Is your supply chain Linux? Are other parts of your business Linux based? Because if not, you want to pay attention to this. So there's Microsoft. All right, again, like I said, we're off alignment this morning. We did not check this. Fortinet releases security updates to patch a critical remote code execution vulnerability that's being exploited as a 0 day in attacks targeting Vorti voice enterprise phone systems. CVE 2025-32756 also does impact Forti mail, Forti NDR, Forti recorder, and Forti camera. The company explaining in a security advisory yesterday, successful exploitation can allow a remote unauthenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code or commands via maliciously crafted HTTP request. Fortinet's product security team discovered this based on attackers' activities, including network scan, system crash logs deletion to cover their tracks, and FCGI debugging being toggled on the logon credentials from the system or SSH login attempts. So again, Forti picked this up themselves. Like their product security team did the job they were hired to do, found the vulnerability, identified it, and patched it up. Good for them. That's exactly what product security teams should be doing. And this is a textbook place where that happens. SAP continues to struggle, releasing more 16 new and 2 updated security notes, part of their May 2025 security patch day. SAP's been on Chinese, is just, we'll get into China here in just a minute. The most severe update is a note released on the April 24th to address CVE 2025-31324, a critical severity bug in Netweaver's Visual Composer development server component that's been exploited in the wild since January by the Chinese. Hundreds of Netweaver apps have been compromised through this exploitation and application security forum. Anopsis warns that opportunistic attackers are looking to leverage web shells deployed during the initial 0-day attacks. So analysis of the attacks have led to the discovery of another critical defect in Netweaver's Visual Composer, that's CVE 2025-4299999. That's got a CVSS score of 9.1, and it's described as an insecure deserialization issue. This was resolved as part of the second critical note released yesterday as part of Patch Tuesday. So all in all, you want to make sure you get your SAP environment fired up. So I went to an event yesterday and I saw an Ivanti thing there, and I was like, wow, they still go to events. Have you no shame? Have you no shame, Ivanti? All right. I will say it was the emptiest table at the event. Ivanti's warning customers today to patch their endpoint manager mobile software against 2 different security vulnerabilities chained in attacks to gain remote code execution. Ivanti's released updates for Endpoint Manager Mobile, which addresses 1 medium and 1 high severity vulnerability. When chained together, successful exploitation could lead to unauthenticated remote code execution. They're aware of a very limited number of customers whose solution has been exploited at the time of disclosure. They still have, like, who's still gluten for punishment? I say this every time we cover Ivanti on the show. I do, because I think people are gluten for punishment. Gluten for punishment at this point. I don't understand it. 2 different CVEs. 2025-4427 is an authentication bypass in the EPMM via the API component. Again, kind of basic. The second CVE 2025-4428 is a remote code execution vulnerabilities, allowing threat actors to execute arbitrary code on targeted system via maliciously crafted API requests. API security 6 years ago was complex. Today, second nature. Ivanti says customer can mitigate the 2 0-day flaws by installing Ivanti Endpoint Manager Mobile, and they've got their versions listed, or you can do what I tell everyone else to do. Divorce Ivanti and get something else. Literally something else. Go to Amazon, buy whatever endpoint manager, you'll probably be better off. Whatever's on sale, get it. You'll be better off. Seriously. Adobe releasing patches for at least 39 vulnerabilities across a range of products, alongside warnings about remote code execution exploit risks. The Patch Tuesday rollout is headlined by a major Adobe Cold Fusion update that addresses a wide swath of code execution and privilege escalation attacks. The Cold Fusion Bulletin documents 7 distinct vulnerabilities, all marked as critical, and Adobe warned that could lead to arbitrary file system read, arbitrary code execution, and privilege escalation. It's got a CVSS score of 9.1. Adobe Photoshop was updated to fix 3 critical severity bugs with code execution risks, and the company also flagged a critical bug in Illustrator that should be patched with urgency. The company also fixed critical code execution in Lightroom, Dreamweaver Connect, and InDesign. So you want to make sure you get those updated, as well as Adobe Substance 3D Painter, Bridge, and Dimension. All of those there. I mean, whew. Are you tired? Are you tired? Because we left a whole bunch of stuff out because there were other news. But we'll get to this next one. A newly discovered VMware tools vulnerability could enable attackers with limited access to compromised VMs. Broadcom, which owns VMware, issued a security advisor warning the flaw could be exploited to perform insecure file operations within some affected VMs. The vulnerability CVE 2025-22247 affects VMware tools versions 12.x.x and 11.x.x on Windows and Linux. According to the bulletin, VM SA 2025-0007, released on May 12th. Attackers with non-admin privileges on a guest VM can exploit this weakness to tamper with local files, potentially leading to unauthorized behavior within the virtual environment. The vulnerability was privately reported. They've taken swift action to provide patches. Broadcom stated in the advisor, a malicious actor with non-administrative privileges on a guest VM may tamper with the local files to trigger insecure file operations within the VM. There's no workarounds available for it. Only a patch is the only way to get this done. This impacts Windows, Linux, and it does not impact Mac OS. The fixed version is 12.5.2, and it's got a CVSS score of 6.1. So there's that. Let's get to China. China's on a roll, trying to negotiate a trade deal with President Trump. They're trying to show they're good stewards of the global community, which they're obviously not. Not the Chinese people, the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party. A lot of people say, James, you kind of take it personally against China. There's a story there. One day, maybe we'll talk about it on the show. But I have an issue with the Chinese Communist Party and what they do to the Chinese people in China. Also have a problem with people who think that China is somehow, with communism, going to become a major superpower. They cheat, lie, steal, and eventually that catches up to you. It does all the time. Well, WeChat, which is kind of a really, really big messaging app and kind of payment app in China that's used across the entire world as a way to do that, is now under investigation with several state attorney generals demanding answers from WeChat over its alleged use by money launderers connected to the fentanyl trade. So this isn't new. They've known about it for a while. Just the federal government turned a blind eye until now. According to the letter sent to the company on Monday, Chinese underground banking networks use WeChat to orchestrate cash pickups in U.S. cities, arrange currency swaps between fentanyl traffickers and Chinese money brokers, and move laundered funds through layered transactions that are difficult to trace. The allegations follow a handful of indictments in recent years connected to the alliance between Mexican drug cartels and Chinese money launderers. The attorney generals from New Hampshire, Colorado, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Jersey, and Mississippi signed the letter. Folks, that's a bipartisan group of attorney generals. Bipartisan. South Carolina, North Carolina, I believe Mississippi are all Republicans. Jersey, New Hampshire, Colorado are all Democrats. So this isn't we're empowered and we're going after them. This is a whole lot more. WeChat, by the way, is owned by Tencent, which, if you none of you know, the major Chinese company. They've been given to respond by June 11th with a description of any steps the company has taken in response to the criminal indictment. Press reports and intelligence assessments on the use of the platform in connection to the drug trade. Tencent has not answered any questions. There's a Wall Street Journal investigation citing law enforcement officials. The laundering of drug proceeds involves operatives working for the cartels in the U.S., providing dollars to brokers for Chinese money laundering networks. The brokers then advertise the cash for a sale through WeChat in exchange for Chinese yuan, which eventually ends up in Chinese bank accounts connected to those launderers. Major, and should be put an end to it right now. WeChat should be banned. This is a great example of why you would ban an app. Chinese front companies are also helping North Korean IT workers get jobs and evade international sanctions, according from a report from strategic intelligence firm Strider Technologies. Firms affiliated with the Chinese government have also been supplying equipment to North Korean IT workers. Strider saying in a report published yesterday, North Korean IT workers conduct ransomware operations, manipulate crypto markets, develop commercial software that sometimes contains malicious code. According to the report, accidentally hiring North Korea IT workers is now one of the biggest risks facing a lot of companies today. North Korean IT workers sometimes steal IP to help their government in technological advances. Strider is warning that they also steal other sensitive data, send it home for use in espionage operations. Sometimes the workers even sell the information on the dark web. Companies that hire these workers also need to worry about reputational damage. According to the report, we know that Pyongyang's campaign of IT worker deception benefits from Chinese aid. Strider identifying a Chinese company under U.S. sanction that shipped equipment for IT workers to Department 53 of the Ministry of the People's Armed Forces, a North Korean unit that has engaged in weapons trading. These shipments include computers, graphic cards, HDMI cables, and even network equipment. Strider said its third-party due diligence platform identified 35 other organizations linked to the Chinese firm that could also be supporting North Korea. Department of Justice, Attorney General Pam Bondi, where are you at? Where are the sanctions? Where are the outlaws? Where is the outrage? Shut down the Chinese consulate. Come on, get to work. Mr. Rubio, what's happening? The network presents a significant risk to Western businesses, which may unknowingly engage with or rely on entities connected to North Korean operations, exposing them to potential sanction violations and serious reputational harm. As you can see, there's that there. Again, sorry, we're off center on some of these here. We forgot to check. The state-backed North Korean threat group Kony or Opal Sleet was observed targeting Ukrainian government entities in intelligence collection operations. Why is North Korea going after the Ukraine? Simple. North Korea has troops in Russia assisting Russia in its war against the Ukraine. They've aligned there, and now they're joining Russia in the onslaught of cyber warfare that leads to kinetic and battlefield results all the time. The attackers are using phishing emails that impersonate think tanks, referencing important political events or military developments to lower their targets. Again, classic. It's the Russian way of doing it as well. Proofpoint, which researchers who discovered the activity in February of this year suggest it's likely an effort to support the DPRK's military involvement alongside Russia in Ukraine and evaluate the political status underpinning the conflict. So there's a whole attack chain around it, and it's kind of coming out with beautifully crafted emails, by the way. Again, AI, they do that. And then it takes a victim to a mega hosted download that drops a password protected RAR archive on their systems containing a CHM file with the same name. Opening that triggers PowerShell that downloads the next stage PowerShell, which captures reconnaissance info from the infected hosts and establishes persistence. Again, very, very sophisticated, but very common, but sophisticated for North Korea. All right. So let's get into here. I said the show is going to run late. Let's get into some data breaches where Alabama is saying a cybersecurity event could disrupt state government services. This all started on Monday morning where Governor Kay Ivey made the announcement, and local media reported later in the day on Monday that the government response was ongoing. Ivey said some state employee username and passwords were compromised. It currently believes no Alabamians' personal PII has been retrieved. The incident was detected on May 9th, according to Governor Ivey. And teams from the State Office of Information Technology have been working around the clock to identify and mitigate its impacts. Investigators don't know the scope of the attack or who is responsible. As of Tuesday morning, the state has not provided any further updates. This follows Rhode Island, Oregon, Virginia, and so many others that have been victims of cybercrime at the state level. Marks and Spencer's revealing that customer information was stolen in their disruptive cyber attack that happened over the Easter holiday. The incident forced the retail giant to suspend online purchases, which still remain unavailable to this day. That's nearly a month later. The attack was claimed by the Dragon Force ransomware group, which also targeted Co-op and Harrods. Today, they're writing customers, informing them that due to the sophisticated nature of the incident, some of their personal customer data has been taken. This is according to a fresh filing with the London Stock Exchange. The compromised information would include names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, online order history, household information, and mask details of the payment card used for online purchases. For individuals who've had their had a Marks and Spencer credit card or Sparks Pay, customer reference numbers may have been compromised as well. The data does not include any usable card or payment details, according to Marks and Spencer, but now they've got to start the idea of disclosure. Australia is facing an uptick in data breaches, with the company recording its highest number of reported incidents this decade. According to the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, 527 data breaches notifications occurred between July and December of last year, up 9% from the first half of the year, and the highest tally since late 2020. The findings published the latest notifiable data breaches report highlights a deepening fault lines in the country's cybersecurity, especially within health, finance, government, and supply chain. Malicious or criminal attacks drove most of the reported breaches, accounting for 67% of incidents. Within the category, cyber incidents made up 2/3. Ransomware attacks rose sharply, up 24%, and analysts say phishing and stolen credentials continue to lead the charge in initial access methods. Sector-wise, healthcare took the lion's share of breaches with 102 notification, followed by government entities at 63, financial institutions at 58, or here it says 54, so I'm assuming that's a typo, and education clocked in at 44, and the retail sector disclosed 29 data breaches. And again, supply chain, human error, all part of that, but it just shows you the deepening wedge that is happening here within cybersecurity in Australia. And finally, in not so good news around Microsoft announcing they're laying off 3% of its entire workforce, its largest mass layoff in more than 2 years. This will amount to about 6,000 people losing their jobs. Microsoft employs 228,000 full-time workers as of last June. That was the last time it reported its annual headcount. Around 55 of those workers were in the U.S. The layoffs will be across all levels and geographies, but the cuts will focus on reducing the number of notices to employees began going out on Tuesday. Microsoft announced a smaller round of performance-based layoffs in January, but the 3% cuts will be Microsoft's biggest since 2023, when the company cut 10,000 workers, or almost 5% of its workforce, joining other tech companies that were scaling back to their pandemic-era expansions. The latest layoff comes just a week after Microsoft reported strong sales and profits that beat Wall Street expectations for January through March quarter, where investors took a dose of relief during a turbulent time for the tech sector. CFO Amy Hood said in April's earnings call that the company was focused on building high-performing teams and increasing our agility by reducing layers with fewer managers. So this was kind of put out there. They've obviously considered this for quite some time. And again, you have a lot of managers. Typically, every one of those managers trying to justify why they're there. And so it just creates more complexity of moving quicker. And anyone will tell you, I mean, as someone who's been in startups a lot of my career, I despise when I hear so many managers out of startups. Startups should be founders and a really smart team of engineers helping build a product. And that's how you go. That's how you move fast. That's how you break things. And then as you grow, you're scaling, you're creating your teams, but you're not adding layers and layers of management. You really don't need layers and layers of management, right? And ideally, you're building these teams across the org in a way that allows for cross collaboration and quickly, and allows for the company to really maximize its profits. Maybe that's what Microsoft is doing. I don't know. The layoffs are expected to hit all parts of Microsoft business, including LinkedIn and Xbox. So it's not just Microsoft proper. So we'll see that, and we'll see how that goes. And right now, Microsoft CEO there told Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg at an AI event last month at Meta's headquarters that nearly 20 or 30% of the code for some of Microsoft's coding projects are probably AI written by software. Just understand where we're going. That's it for our show this morning. Sorry it went so long, but so much to talk about. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up this week, and probably more Patch Tuesday stuff, because we left out all the OT stuff and a lot of other stuff that we're just like, we can't get to it. It's not as necessary. We'll get to it tomorrow. So all of that will be available on tomorrow's show. Make sure to tune in 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, comment, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.